the Russia-Ukraine war, the battle of claims and counterclaims continue. Kyiv has not backed down from using drones against Moscow, while Russia has been targeting Ukraine's military posts. However, expert opinions say that Ukraine's much-touted counteroffensive has not lived up to the hype. Ukraine has been unleashing a string of drone attacks, but Russian forces have held their ground. Russian officials say they shot down 2 Ukrainian combat drones, which were headed for Moscow. They say Moscow downed 7 Ukrainian drones on Monday near the Kaluga region, which is less than 200 kilometers from Moscow, and on Sunday in the Podelsky district on the outskirts of the capital city. The latest drone attacks comes after Russian missiles struck the eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk on Monday. The attack killed at least 9 people while wounding over 80 and destroying apartments. Russia says that in the last week, its forces intercepted unmanned drones, Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and HIMARS, as well as multiple rocket launchers from Ukraine. Up until a month ago, the Russian capital had not been a target for Kyiv. However, a stalled Ukrainian counteroffensive could be a major problem for the war-torn country. Kyiv has been fighting this battle with massive backing from its Western allies, of which Washington has so far pledged the most financial support. Though progress is being made, it is much slower than what Ukraine's Western allies had hoped for. And according to a report, in the last month, Ukrainian troops have advanced at most about 16 kilometers in 2 areas along the region's 160-kilometer front, while Ukrainian forces have been attacking on 3 fronts using Western-supplied equipment and training, probing for weak spots along the entire 1,125-kilometer front line. Russians have spent months building the most extensive fortifications. From triple layers of trenches to bunkers, concrete pyramid, tank traps, and ditched lace with thousands of landmines. Experts have raised doubt on Ukraine's capacity to recover lost ground as well. And despite multiple peace efforts, there are no signs of a breakthrough, let alone a ceasefire. With the balance in the conflict unlikely to change anytime soon, Ukraine is nowhere close to gaining back its areas, and Russia's multi-layered defense lines in the eastern and southern parts of the country pose a major hurdle. Meanwhile, Russia has not gained enough to claim victory either. And with U.S. elections coming up here in the United States, many are wondering if the West will lose patience with Ukraine and whether it will lead to divisions among alliances that have remained intact since the war started. And so far, well, for more on this, we are being joined by John Erath from Washington, D.C. He's a senior policy director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. John, welcome back to WION. You know, this is very contradictory to statements made by U.S. President Joe Biden recently saying that Russia has already lost the war, Putin will face the reality very soon, so on and so forth. What we're seeing is that this counteroffensive just has not lived up to its promise, despite support from notably the West, not so much the global South, but let's call it the international community. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that the expectations for the Ukrainian offensive were unreasonably high. They were based on the successes Ukraine had in its offensive operations last year against some of the more exposed Russian positions that had not had time to prepare defenses. Russia this time has known exactly what was coming and exactly where it was coming from, and has had many months to prepare. So the slow progress of the Ukrainian offensive is entirely to be expected, or it should have been expected. And it's important to remember in this case that really what the war is about at this point is not who controls what one small village or another small village in the contested frontline areas. The war is going to go on until one side or both sides become tired of the fight, until they believe that what can be gained by continuing the fight is not worth the cost of continuing. We have not reached that point yet, but it's this sort of operation that is in many ways designed to create that impression in Russia, that the value of what is gained by continuing the war is not worth continued loss of life and continued loss of territory. We don't know how long that is going to take. So it's very difficult to measure the relative success of the offensive in that light.
And as Senior Policy Director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation, can you talk about the threat of some kind of nuclear encounter happening at this point? That's something that we haven't talked about in a while, but it's a concern at the end of the day.
Anytime you have threats to use nuclear weapons, it is automatically a great concern. Any use of a nuclear weapon, even a small one, would be catastrophic, not only for the immediate area that was impacted, but for the greater environment in the region. So when there is a threat, as there continues to be from Russia, when these threats occur, it is natural to take them very seriously. But that said, I don't think Russia is in a position where it is contemplating use of a nuclear weapon. They are using their nuclear weapons as a tool to exert greater diplomatic pressure on Ukraine's supporters. And it has been effective thus far in doing so. The calculations of which kinds of assistance to provide to Ukraine have certainly been affected by the possibility of Russian escalation to the nuclear level. So in that respect, these threats have been effective and have constrained the assistance that is being provided to Ukraine. And its calculation is going to continue to be taken into account as we go forward, as decisions for further assistance to Ukraine.
Great. John Erath from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you very much.